Join Charlie Maloof as he explores the personal journeys of Broad River Retail's very own memory makers. Welcome to Stories from the River.
Welcome to Stories from the River. I'm here with Heather Greenwood, our Associate Director of the Memory Maker Experience, for episode number 2. Heather, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited about this conversation we're about to have today and been looking forward to it.
Good. Me too.
So Heather, before we get going, I always like to know a little bit about who we're speaking with. So tell our audience a little bit about you, your background, and your career prior to coming to the river.
Yeah, I was born and raised, I'm Midwestern, which usually people can tell pretty quickly. I was born and raised outside of Detroit, Michigan. I went to Michigan State University, and that's when I started this journey. I fell in love with retail. My very first job was for the retailer Nordstrom, and I started on the stock team. So I worked early mornings, and I was just kind of watching and looking around, and I realized like this buzz for retail and for commission. So I worked there on the summers, on holidays, as I went through college. And then when I graduated, I was like, this is for me. So I raised my hand. I traveled all over the U.S. with Nordstrom, did a lot of different roles, took my boyfriend, then fiance, then husband with me. And before coming here, we were in Providence, Rhode Island. I managed the store there for several years. And during that time, I welcomed my first son. And that's when I decided I didn't know if this was it for me. And so I kind of had a little bit of a life change and an awakening, if you will. I quit my job. My husband and I moved to Fort Mill, South Carolina. Had no idea what I was going to do. And then I met what at this time was kind of this little Broad River Furniture. And I met Manny Rodriguez, our COO, and immediately knew this was it for me. I really, really wanted that job. And so today, fast forward, I live in Fort Mill, South Carolina with my husband, Brian, and we have 3 small kids. We have 2 young boys, 6 and 4, and a baby girl who's 9 months old.
That's great. That's great. So we had Manny on last week, and he's also from Rhode Island, and it's not often you get the first 2 guests from Rhode Island, and originally from Michigan. My wife was born in Michigan, and so you're a Spartan.
I am, yes.
That's great. That's great. You said you really wanted this job. When we were actually Broad River Furniture at the time. So when was that you joined the company?
Back in October 2016.
2016. Okay. And then what was the job?
At the time, it was the manager of learning and development.
Okay, got it. And so tell us about your career path with Broad River Furniture, then Broad River Retail, since you've been with us for nearly over 5 years, nearly 6 years, if I'm doing the math right.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I started as the manager of learning and development, and I tell people all the time, I think you guys took a big gamble when you made that decision. And I did that for about 2 years, and then became the senior manager of learning and development. And then earlier this year, past year, April 2021, I became the associate director of Memory Maker Experience on April 1st when that department was born.
Wow. Okay. We're going to get into that. So you put so much effort into helping us create a positive and memorable first day for our new memory makers. But I have to ask you, do you remember your first day with the company?
I do, yes.
Tell us about it.
Maybe not one of the best day ones on record, but my favorite part of the day one is at the end of the day, my manager and I went to Pineville, the flagship. And I had not been in one of our stores. I was not really familiar with Ashley Home Store. And being in that store that day just lit up all of my emotions and feelings towards retail. Seeing the guests and seeing our HFCs work with the guests and just meeting people and hearing their excitement made me know it was the right place for me at the right time. That was also the day I met one of my very good friends today, Renee Bradley, and just meeting her again reaffirmed for me, this is the right place, the right time. I'm excited to be here and see where we go.
Well, it's okay that we didn't have a great experience for you. I wish it could have been better, but you get to help us make that better for folks. And that's really important. Okay. I got a quick get to know Heather Greenwood icebreaker question for you. You're at the end of your career. You've hung up your cleats, your shoes, or your memory maker experience whiteboards, and you're looking back and you're thinking how you want to be remembered. And so, what 3 words come to mind that you would like to describe you?
Yeah, the first one for me, hands down, is intentional. I think a lot about the things that I do, the actions that I take, the words that I use, and I want people to know that. There's a lot of intentionality in what we do at Broad River and what I do, and that's really important for me. I care, and a lot of that comes down to being intentional. The second one, I talk about this all the time at home, kind. It's really important to be kind in the world we live in today. I recently heard somebody talk about the culture of kindness. And that's just something I think a smile goes a long way, a hello. So kindness is really important. And for me, the third one would be authentic. One of the many things I've learned in my career here is it's important to be you and just be you, good, bad, ugly, all the time. And I'm authentic in what I bring to the table every day. And I think that's just a really important trait for anyone to have.
I love those 3 words. That's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Those rolled right off the tongue. You're ready. Okay. So you talked a little bit about April 1st of last year, this brand new Memory Maker Experience Department, or MMX for short. So what can you tell us about this newly formed department? What are the purpose and goals of the MMX department?
Yeah, MMX, whenever I meet people and they ask me what I do, I'm like, oh, I don't know, it's going to be really hard to describe. So the purpose of MMX, I think, is really that every memory maker has the same premier experience at Broad River. So I think a lot about our memory makers, where they work in different locations, different departments, but every single one of them should have the same experience from the minute they accept that job offer to the minute they may move through their life cycle at Broad River. So it's thinking about all the areas we touch, from learning and development, diversity, equity, and inclusion, recognition, celebration. I want everyone to feel special. I love my career here. And so I think for me and for all of MMX, how do we make everyone love their career at Broad River? And this is just a little of what MMX does.
I really love that. So you're taking this thing about intentionality, and then, our vision is to be premier and the premier Ashley home store operator. And you're just saying, how can I infuse that at every touch point throughout their career? And I'm sure, we've read The Power of Moments as a leadership team together as a purpose activation committee, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But you're able to look for all those kind of touch points or peak moments or milestones and infuse that in. I love that. That's great. Who better else to do that? Someone who is intentional and looking to be premier across the board from beginning to end. Love that. Okay. As you know, and we just mentioned, furnishing life's best memories is our organizational purpose. Some people what they may not realize is that you led our purpose activation committee, the PAC, for a whole year in 2019, actually for like 16 months, because we started it before 2019. During our year of purpose, you led the PAC. So what has been a couple of your best memories at the river?
There are so many. My favorite, well, at least 2 are really, really close. My favorite, I think a lot of people could say this, is the 2019 Memory Maker Award celebration, or our gala. That was the first time we really got together, all of us. We had done these small awards celebrations in the training room, and they weren't small. We've had a lot of people in there. But when we opened it up and we had this celebration that evening with all of our memory makers, and we had dinner and we had cocktails and we had fun and we took photos, I'll never forget the energy of that night and just being with everybody. Everybody was dressed up, black tie. It was a lot of fun. So that night, hands down, one of my favorites. A few weeks later, as we know, the pandemic started. So also just holds a special place there before we were separated. And then my other one would be the original Purpose 828. Such a special day, again, leading the PAC and working through the preparation for that and then seeing it come to life. I still get goosebumps when I think about all the people that were there, Justin and Zach and Janine. And it was just such a special day to know that you work for a company that truly cares about purpose.
There's a lot in those 2 answers. It's funny, we had Manny here last week, and he also, one of his favorite memories was the gala. And I know how much work went into preparing for that. And I know you also know how much work went into preparing not just for that one, but you mentioned Purpose 828. I guess you really like big events that take a lot of planning and work.
I didn't know that before I worked at Broad River. And now I think of a little bit of that gala. It's kind of like planning a wedding again. So I enjoy them. I enjoy the behind the scenes and then just seeing it come to life.
What is Purpose 828 for those who may not know?
Sure. Purpose 828 was a celebration of purpose for our company, but not just our company's purpose. We invited our leaders into Fort Mill, and it was looking at how does organizational purpose and personal purpose come together to unite and create fulfillment. We had tons of speakers, lots of fun and music and energy and just great camaraderie to celebrate what is purpose to you and how is it different to me, and then how do they work together collaboratively.
That was great. Yeah, those are two of my favorite days also. Those were great days. Okay. We cannot interview you without talking about the stratospheric growth and the exponential success of our $1 million Memory Maker program. So in 2014, we only had $1 million Memory Maker. And then Manny last week mentioned, that when you came on board, it really took, when we jumped from 7 to 17 in 2017, it really jumped up. And then in 2021, we reached $91 million Memory Makers. I see you just bursting, smiling so wide, sailing past our goal of 60 for the year last year. So certainly you've got to take a lot of pride in the success that we've achieved here with this program. Why do you believe we've achieved so much success in just the growth of $1 million Memory Makers?
We have the right people. And these people, our memory makers, they believe they can do it. And so I think of the start of that program, that 1, that 7, and it just took a few people to get the ball rolling. All I offer is encouragement and a high five and some great prizes. But when you see people start to do that, and then people latch on, and part of my role in Retail 101 is talking to our new memory makers, and they start to see it and they say, hey, I want to be $1 million memory maker. Great. Go watch someone else do it. We have so many great mentors in the Lindsays and the Leahs and the Jamars. Once they start seeing that and they see it's not just about those 7 or it's not about those 51, but they bring people in. They love them. And that's how our program has really grown. It's just people believing in themselves and believing in each other. And then from there, they want to grow. You do it once, then you have to do it twice. You can't just do it once. So we've really seen it grow, but it really is people helping people and these memory makers turning other memory makers into $1 million memory makers.
Mm-hmm. But I think you do a lot more than just high-fiving. And by the way, I heard something on a podcast just yesterday that said Steve Nash led the league. I didn't even know they tracked this in the NBA for high fives. Yeah.
That's a great stat.
Yeah. And he was like the most beloved teammate of all. And they said he used to average 238 high fives a game. So it's something, and he was MVP many years. So I didn't even know they were tracking that. But so it's really important to support people along the way and really encourage them. I know you do a phenomenal job with that, you and your entire team. So, but how did you feel about reaching 91 last year?
I didn't think that would happen. It was scary at the beginning of the year. We goal set and we sit around this table and we think about it. And everybody throws their number out there. And I would have never, ever said 90 plus. It's a lot of nerves. You're still in a pandemic. What's going to happen? A lot of things are changing. And so there was a lot of nerves for me. But I always remember the first conversation I had with Manny. And I remember where we were sitting in his office and he pitched me $1 million writers at the time. He's like, we need to have 100. Make this a program where we have 100. And I went home that night and I said to my husband, this guy is crazy. We're never going to have $100 million memory makers. And so I think of 91 and how far we've come in a short amount of time. And it's overwhelming and it's exciting. And it just makes you think, what is possible? Where will we be in 5 years, 10 years? I don't know the answer to that, but 91 was certainly just very exciting for what is to come from our company.
We cast these visions years before, and then we forget. Someone reminded me recently, he said, you remember when you said this? And it's 2016 or 2017, that we'd one day have $90 million writers. It was back in the time when we didn't even brand the program. And he's like, we got 91. I was like, I had totally forgotten that was the number. Okay, so clearly you light up when you talk about the success of our people. Where did this passion for our people and for other success come from?
There was one moment in my career that I'll never forget. And I was a new GM, really great at what I was doing, and I was learning a lot. I was really young. And my mentor at the time, my regional manager, Pat, We were sitting down having coffee, and he looked at me. We were talking about everything you do as a GM and what that role is. And he said, Heather, no one cares what you know until they know how much you care. And that has stuck with me. I've told you this before in other ways it's taught me over my career. And I think about it, I think for me, it was that moment that it's more about the person and it's what you're doing to help others and the impact that you're creating. That's the most important thing. And now that I'm here and I see what our $1 million memory makers are doing or our new memory makers, I just love seeing them do something they didn't think was possible. Buy a home, get married, get a really big paycheck, go on vacation, become a $1 million memory maker. That's what it's about. That's why all the behind the scenes things happen so that we can have those experiences for our people.
And I love that that mentorship came from a great company that you worked with before, Nordstrom, and you brought that, here at the River. And Manny talked about last week how he had so much great corporate experience that has served him well. And I think that's really important. So now, you've got this $1 million memory maker program, or we have this program at retail. We got to figure it out for other departments, right? We have to have others getting these jackpots.
Absolutely.
And that's the charge and the challenge for us now.
We got it.
Okay. I know you do. I have no doubt. So I know that it always takes a village, right, to achieve phenomenal success. And when you think about that, who are some of the unsung heroes or colleagues of your world? And tell us what they do that help you.
Yeah. Unsung heroes, I can think right off the bat, my team, the MMX team. Specifically, I've worked with Emmeline now for 3 years, Ariel for over a year. The passion, the dedication, just what they do every day makes such an impact on our company. They help me. We keep each other balanced. We keep each other energized. We come up with a seed of an idea. Then we sit together, we whiteboard, we have all these creative juices, and they're better when we're together. Some of the best ideas we've had have come from us spending hours together and just really talking through things and saying, that's good, but what about this? And so without the two of them and now my growing team, I just know there's so much that we can do in MMX. And when we went from L&D to MMX, they were just as excited as I was. They were ready for this transformation and what's next. And for unsung heroes, I would be remiss if I didn't say my husband. I work full time. I have 3 very small kids at home, and he helps me keep it all together. I don't think I could do this without a great partner in life. And so just thinking about how he supports me and encourages me, getting ready for a podcast, things like that I never thought we'd do together. I'm so lucky to have him and just kind of bounce these ideas off of, talk about $1 million memory makers at the dinner table and things like that. So he's just as invested in Broad River retail as I am, but that's one of the many things I love about him.
I love that. Those are great answers. I love how you talked about activating the core value of collaboration. And I'm reminded of the, like in improv, they say yes and instead of, but you can't do this, here's why, but build on each other's ideas. So as you're talking about these collaboration sessions with Emmeline and Ariel and your team, I'm thinking of the yes and stacking all those ideas. You mentioned your team is growing. Are we investing in the Memory Maker Experience department?
We are. We had 2 new interns start with us recently, okay. And that was really exciting. I love interns, as you know, and love growing interns. So that's exciting. We're growing specifically in learning and development, which is an area that we need growth. We do good in retail, but how do we touch the other departments of our company, specifically in training, in L&D, facilitation, and content? So that's one area we're specifically growing in, and many more to come.
A lot of ideas are building under the currents, if you will. Okay, so I know I may be biased, you might be as well, but we believe that our culture at the River is really unique and special here. You're widely known as one of our company's culture carriers, a term that we learned from Adam Grant last year. What is your favorite thing about our culture here at the River, and why do you think what do you think makes it so special?
I also am biased. I love the culture. That's why I'm here. My favorite thing is how we empower our memory makers. It just feels different than other places. We're empowered to have ideas, to share our voice, to have fun. And I think that's so important. For me in my career, I have truly felt like I can bring a new idea. It might not be a good idea, but I can bring it and I can share it. And I'm supported by our leadership to do that. And that's what I teach my team. Say it aloud. Email Charlie. Ask someone about it. And so I think that's really powerful today, is that every person feels empowered to make a difference in our company and that their voice is heard.
Well, you have a lot of great ideas. I mean, and usually now the pitches are, yep, let's go. I remember the one we just had the other day on the Thrive and Purpose series. Yep, sounds great. Of course, also, I've had some really bad ideas, and you fixed them and made them better. Let us not go down the uniform path with the gray shirts. Okay, so you've been a memory maker here at the River. Since you've been a memory maker here at the River, what is something that you've learned about yourself or about what you've been able to accomplish that has surprised even you?
I've learned so much. The biggest thing, I put it in a box, is that I can do it. When I started this role, I'm not traditionally trained in L&D. I'm not your typical L&D manager. And so coming in and hearing the requests that were made very early on, let's create an LMS. Okay, I don't know how to do that. Or let's write a new sales process. The things that have come my way, at first they're scary. And I sit back and think, oh, I don't know if I can do this. What do I do? Who do I call? And then I've learned I can do it. And it's about utilizing my resources. I have great partners at Broad River, and I think about Stacy and what a great partner he is to me, and Manny and how they've helped me grow. And so for me, it's really about, instead of being scared now, I go, okay, I can do it. I'm going to make a timeline. I'm going to make a path. I'm really good at those things. And then I'm going to figure it out. And so for me, Broad River has just taught me I can do it. There's enough people there to support me, and I will learn it. There'll be bumps along the road, but we'll get there.
Yeah, no doubt. From a big event to a curriculum like Ashley Discovery or the Broad River Way, or a sales process like C4, or some of the other things that or a new department, you've certainly been able to execute in a lot of different facets. Multifaceted and enormously talented. Okay, so you've been with us for over 5 years now. If you could go back to your first day, what would you tell your younger self about what life is going to be like at Broad River Retail?
Life at Broad River Retail is fast. So we used to say go fast. And so I think about that. You have to be ready for anything. That's one of my favorite parts of working in retail. So I love that now in this corporate environment that I work in, it's the same way. You have to be ready for anything. It's exciting. It's a little bit scary. And I think that's what makes it really fun. Just to be asked to do things and say, hey, we have this visit coming. Can you guys help us? Or this event, let's do it next week. And so for me, it's that energy and that adrenaline where I would just say, be ready for it and take it all in strides. It happens one day at a time. And that's been a big thing for me, is what's the priority? What am I going to focus on? And kind of, again, charting, what am I going to do day by day to get that outcome?
Yeah, that'd be great advice. Okay, I'm going to pivot again to the engagement survey. Okay. So we just completed a comprehensive enterprise-wide engagement survey this past fall. What is something that you didn't expect that surprised you from the engagement survey?
The biggest thing, I was really surprised in the open feedback. And one of the things particularly was around mental health. So we know that this has been a challenging time, but what really surprised me and was a great feeling for me was our people felt comfortable telling us that and writing in a survey, which is a little bit of an awkward situation, to be able to say, hey, I'm going through some things and I could use some more support. Or here's how I see how we can bring mental health to a topic of conversation at Broad River. And it wasn't one comment or two, but it was people just expressing life has been tough for them or for their families, and that they wanted to share it with us. They felt comfortable sharing it with us. And then saying, can you help me? I don't know where to go. Can someone help me? Where do I go? What do you suggest? And so I think that has really led to Thrive and Purpose, is how can we better support our people? They trust us and they're comfortable with us and they want us to help them through this rough patch that they may be going through.
Yeah, that's so important. And the rough patch didn't stop like when the stimulus checks hit, right? I mean, those are great and all, but it's been 2 years of rough patches, and we've all got to be a lot more empathetic to what people may be going through. And that alone is a reason to do an engagement survey, just to know if people are going through that, your people are going through that, to be able to be there to support them. So that's great. I was not expecting that from your answer. But let's let me flip it the other way. What is something that just reaffirmed from the engagement survey what you already knew about Broad River?
Our memory makers are happy. You do an engagement survey, and there's a nerve. When we were writing those questions, and when we hit go, a nerve of what are they going to say? What do they really feel? And I feel like I have a good pulse on what goes on in our company, but to see it and to hear them say they feel valued as a memory maker, they understand what our purpose is. Those things to me are really, really powerful, looking at 97% promoters in some of those areas. That makes me know what we're doing matters, and it hits all across the organization. We've gotten a lot bigger, but people still feel that in different locations and different departments that they can say, yeah, I feel valued here.
That's really, really important. Okay, so when you look at a company from the outside looking in, you form a point of view and you think you know X, Y, or Z about a certain company. What is one thing about Broad River that you think would surprise others from the outside looking in?
We're really loud on social media. And so we like to share our parties and our galas and our lunches. I want people to know how hard we work. We have a lot of fun. We do, but we work really hard. This is such a great group of memory makers. And I think about the people I work with every day or the people that may work out in our warehouses, and they're hard workers. They bring their A game every day. Retail is not easy. And so I just think about they're hard workers. You can't give enough credit to the memory makers of our company. We have fun, but we also work really hard. So the fun means even more when we have it.
Yeah, and a couple of things on that. Sometimes you said we're loud. I don't even think we share nearly like what we could share that happens. And so we do recognitions and celebrations, and we're moving on. But this stories from the podcast could almost be called a gratitude tour. Because I think once you hear these stories that we know that are out there, you just can't help but be filled with gratitude for those who are on the front lines, putting their heart and soul into it every single day. And that's what I'm really looking forward to this year with the season. Okay, so we've brought in a lot of speakers, over the years to speak to us either in person, nationally known speakers, or virtually as well. And but is there which speaker has had the biggest impact on you and why?
Hands down for me, I've loved them all, but Dr. Nicholas Pearce, The Purpose Path, is a tremendous book. I've read it multiple times since that initial time on the Purpose Activation Committee. His book changed me. I was going through a difficult season, and reading that book and learning about being your authentic self, just something clicked for me. It made me see things differently and where I was struggling. And then seeing him live in Fort Mill and tell the story and do Q&A with you, it just reaffirmed everything I learned in the book. He's so inspirational. He's so motivational. And the story is beautiful. It's a tough book to read, and it takes you on a very personal journey. But in the end, for me, that was just a big change for me professionally, that book, and then seeing him in person.
He is great. It was great to be able to break bread with him and have him speak to us. I'm going to have to send him this clip now to let him know how impactful it'll mean a lot to him to have heard what you just said there and shared. The Purpose Path by Dr. Nicholas Pearce, if you're interested. And we'll put links in the show notes. Okay. So our Thrive, our company's word, we love a good word of the year. Our company's word of the year for 2022 is thrive. What does it mean for you to thrive? And what advice would you offer up to a fellow memory maker to help him or her thrive this year?
Thrive for me is thinking about how can I be the best version of myself. And so for me, that's twofold. How can I be the best version of myself here at Broad River? But also equally as important, how can I be the best person to my 3 kids and my husband? I haven't been great at that. And that's been a struggle for me over the years. And so for me, 2022 is about being present in the moment here, but also doing the same for my kids. They're little. They relish every moment with mom, reading stories at bedtime and eating dinner together. And so for me, thriving this year would be finding this great marriage of both. And I know I can do both. It's just about being intentional in the moment and being really present for them. They deserve it. They grow too fast. And so I just want to be there and thrive in both areas of my life. I know when I'm better at home, I'll be better at work, and it'll just work really well for me. For others in thriving, it's just to really appreciate the moment. Life is fast and it goes by so quickly. You're working and you're running errands, and you're doing all these things, and it's just enjoy the moment, slow down and appreciate it. Take those moments to spend with your children or your loved ones to just really savor it and just enjoy it. It's hard to say enjoy things right now when they're a little gloomy on the outside, but just thinking of those moments, how can you create these magical moments at home and at work?
That's a great answer, but it may be hard to say that, but I think it's important to say that and to allow ourselves to enjoy those moments right now. I think that is, in spite of where we are, where our feet are planted or the circumstances, we have to continue moving forward and thriving. That's a great answer. And I'm confident you will figure that out for yourself this year and for your family. So we have our company's top 4 strategic initiatives. Any given time, here's what the top 4. We limited it to 4. And they're big company-wide projects or initiatives. So we recently introduced Project Thrive to the top 4. What is Project Thrive?
Project Thrive is all about our memory makers. How do we take care of them so that they can thrive? No matter what thriving looks like to you, how do we help that? And so that's all sorts of different areas that happen in human capital. 401k and benefits, wellness, and just thinking about what are those programs that we can take to help you thrive. We'll talk about Thrive and Purpose, a series dedicated to helping people with financial thriving, professional thriving, mental health. And so it's thinking about all those things. How do we help our memory makers thrive in 2022? We want to say it and do it and take action on it. So at the end of this year, we can hear lots of great stories about how they thrived and hopefully how we've supported them in getting there.
One could say we're being intentional about the word thrive and activating it.
Correct.
Okay. Well, one just said that. In your habits, in your experience, what is the best way to inspire your soul to start a healthy new habit?
I think the biggest thing is learning from others. Watching what others are doing. I spend a lot of time observing and listening. And so as I see other people with healthy habits, and you generally see that at the beginning of a new year, I'm really curious. What do they do with it? Could I do it? Could I not? And then for me to jumpstart it, I have to be accountable for it. So to think, I'm going to work out. I'm probably not. But if I say it and I say to my husband or a girlfriend, hey, I do want to start working out or going to the gym 3 days a week or running. For me, it's finding that accountability buddy. Having somebody do it with you and helping you makes all the difference in the world to take it from an idea to a real life. I'm doing it and I'm starting a habit.
And encourage you.
Yeah, exactly.
So you said you started at Nordstrom in the stockroom, and then you ascended to the general manager of a very large box in Providence, Rhode Island. And now you're the associate director of the Memory Maker Experience Department at Broad River Retail. When you started with us in an area that you had no prior experience in learning and development, what do you think are or have been the secrets to your success?
First of all, positivity. You can't go anywhere without having a positive attitude. It's so easy to see negativity or to get sucked into other people's negativity, but always remaining positive helps you go through things, lift yourself up. And then again, I always try to be a student of the business. I never want to get to a place where I think I know the answer. I need to be a student. I need to learn from other people. I didn't know anything about learning and development, and learning from those around me and observing. I love to be in other areas of our company outside of my 4 walls in my office to listen to people, to observe, to see what they're doing. And so being a student and staying humble to that, I think has helped me along the way. I don't always know the answer. I don't always know what's going to work and what's not going to work. I have a great support system around me that helps me and keeps me humble and continues to challenge me so I can continue to grow.
That's awesome. Mentorship is so important. Where, from whom do you get your mentorship? And what about your inspiration and motivation?
Yeah, I've had so many great mentors as I've grown up in retail and in the corporate environment. People that I look up to who've done the things that I want to do. I also read a lot. So reading and again, staying a student, listening to things. You send me a lot of things that you think I might like.
Yeah, I was going to say, you always write back, so I know you're reading it. Yeah.
And so I know if you took the time to send it to me, it's worth a listen. It's worth reading. And so those things keep me really fresh and learning new avenues that I might not know exist. So I think it's just being open to those opportunities. And for inspiration and motivation for me, a lot of it is my kids. They're young. They ask really crazy questions. They challenge me. When I go to work, why do I go to work? What do I do there? Who are these people I work with? And so a lot of those things for me inspire me. I want to be great for them. I want them to look up to me and see the things I do and the impact that I make. And so every day I'm trying to think, what am I doing for them? They motivate me, they keep me going, and I look forward to them having big careers and big lives and whatever they want to do.
I'm just imagining one of your small children saying, "What do you do there at work?" That's funny. What is work? Okay. So let's say you had this, let's say this became your job. Let's say I decided to retire and I gave you the keys to the company. You're now the new president and CEO of Broad River Retail. And today's your first day in this exciting new role. What would be your first order of business?
I have big shoes to fill. My first order of business today would be parental leave. Parental leave is really important to me. It's something I'm passionate about. Of course, I'm a mom, but thinking about our families outside of the four walls, our memory makers. So whether they're expanding or they're adopting or they're going through a fertility treatment, how can we support them on that journey? Growing your family is so exciting. It's also really scary. Mm-hmm. So thinking about what does that look like pre-leave, during leave. Certainly I know I've been on maternity leave several times. Coming back is really scary. Do people remember you? What did you miss? How much email's in your inbox? And so I think about how can we make that journey just really successful for our people? Paternal leave is a hot topic in the world. And so I think that's an easy thing. And I'm sure that we'll be doing it here shortly and making some big changes to those programs to support our memory makers on their journey with their family.
Well, if I take that idea, I'll make sure I give proper credit there to where that came from. Okay, so you've talked a lot about learning and that you read a lot. What book are you currently reading?
I just started a new book. You might have already read this one, but I'm not sure. Chief Joy Officer.
I have not read it, but I'm aware of it. It's been recommended. I'd love to know what you think of it.
I just started it, and I also picked it up as a recommendation. I think it was one of the books that Davin had put on his LinkedIn, and thought, catchy title. Let me read a little bit more. So I picked it up. I love thinking about how can you elevate others and help people to live this career of fullness. And so I just started it. So far, I think it's going to be really, really good.
I think the author is going to be at the Purpose Summit at the University of Notre Dame in May, which I believe you're planning to attend with a few of our leaders from Broad River Retail, myself included. So really looking forward to that. So I've got to read it before May.
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know if you are into binge watching television shows, but if so, what show are you currently binge watching?
I get all my best recommendations from Manny Rodriguez. So my husband always wants to know what Manny's watching. We have been through Ted Lasso and Schitt's Creek and are really happy shows. And now we just got back into one of our favorites, season 4 of Ozark, which is dark and a little tough sometimes, but we love it. And so we are currently just finishing up the first half of season 4.
So I'm a big Ted Lasso fan and a big Ozark fan, and Bateman's great. But Julie Garner is on a new Netflix show called Inventing Anna, and so that may be one. My wife just started that one.
I just saw something about it yesterday, and I was thinking, "Oh, are we ready for that?" So
it's based on a true story, and she's a great actress.
She is.
Yeah.
She really is.
Okay, what is your favorite piece of furniture that you've bought from us?
Yeah, we recently built a home and furnished our home at Ashley Home Store. And so one of my favorites is the Bolenberg counter height table, because dinner is really important to us. Kids go to school, I work, and so one thing we do every day is we eat dinner together at our table. We have some weird conversation because they're little, but that table means so much to me. It's just a place for us to come home and a sanctuary to sit around our table, eat dinner, have some laughs. And so when I bought the table, I didn't think that big of a deal. It was a kitchen table. But now every night when we're together around it, it just plays a really big part in our family coming together.
Yeah, the meaning behind it, where life's best memories and moments are taking place. That's awesome. Around the dinner table. Okay, so when you stop working for the day, which is at a normal time, I hope, and have some time for yourself or your family, what do you like to do for fun or just to relax?
Yeah, we love to be outside. Hard right now because the weather's been a little tough. We love to be outside, taking walks. My kids are in that kind of learning to ride the bike stage, so riding bikes. They're also starting to explore sports, soccer, basketball. So we love to be outside. I love to do anything that my kids are involved in. So just being with them, talking about what happened at school. One of my favorite things to do is read with them. My 6-year-old is an avid reader. He's the type of kid who you can find in a corner reading a book. And so reading with them, and now for him to read to me is really special. He picks up the book and we sit down and we cuddle, and him reading that means a lot to me. I love that he's a reader at such a young age. But anything that we can do together, we recently went back to the movie theater, which we haven't been in over 2 years. And we took my middle son for his first trip to the movie theater. And so that was just a really cool, on a whim. I thought we should do something different this weekend. We kind of have been in a rut, so let's go to the movies. And that was just something fun and different that they really enjoyed. And think of, again, what can we do different than what we get used to doing every day?
We did as well. We recently, I think we saw Sing 2.
So did we.
Yeah,
that was our choice as well.
It was great. I think I loved it more than the other kids did. And so it was great to get back to do normal things again. Okay, coming down the final stretch of this awesome interview. Thank you again so much for being here. To someone who is not a memory maker and is thinking of joining or coming to the river, as we like to say, what advice would you offer to that person?
Come. Trust your gut. I'm a big person. Trust my gut instinct. How do I feel about things? It's the right move. If you're thinking about it, if you've talked to some people, it's the right move. It's a great company for you personally and professionally. And that's what's ultimately important to me, is that it invests in you personally. So I think come, be prepared to learn, be prepared to be a student, be prepared to have fun. It's a little bit of a different company. That's what I like about it. The culture is energetic and it's fun and it's engaging. Be ready for all of that, but you probably should just come.
Okay. I love it. Season 1 of the podcast. This is our first attempt at trying something new and different. What are you looking forward to learning from our fellow memory makers during this first season?
I love hearing people's history, where they came from. We work with so many people, but do I know where they all came from or what happened before Broad River? No. And then I just also love to know what makes people go. What is that motivator? What inspires them? What makes a person like a Mo? What makes Manny? And so I think about that, and I'm just excited to hear from people, excited to hear from memory makers that maybe I don't get to spend a lot of time with, but I should. And so people that I might learn through the podcast that I want to spend more time with in the future.
Yeah, I am too. So along those lines, you know a lot of people in a lot of different departments in our company. Do you have any guest recommendations? Like, who should we have on? Who are some people who we should consider asking to be a guest on the podcast?
One of my favorite stories at Broad River Retail is Osvaldo Rodriguez, and I've known him since day one. He's somebody I talk to all the time. And every time I talk to him, he talks about his kids and his wife and his story. And it's so inspiring. He has done so much in his career. And for sure, for me, that it would be an incredible story for all of our memory makers to hear.
That's a great recommendation. Oz still sends me text messages or emails that he and his family got their new house, and he's been a great success story. And Oz, you got to be on the podcast, man. We got to have you on here. Heather, you've been great. Any final words or as we close out today?
No, I'm excited to be here on season 1. We've talked about a podcast for a long time. So to see it come to life, and I'm excited to see who else is on the podcast and what we can learn from each other. I think this is just kind of the beginning. Broad River is an exciting place. I'm so humbled and grateful to be a part of it and to see where we go in the future.
Awesome. And that is episode 2 with Heather Greenwood, our Associate Director of the Memory Maker Experience. Thank you so much for joining us.